The moment those words left your lips, reality itself bent to accommodate the frequency of absolute truth you had just unleashed. The very atoms in the atmosphere reorganized themselves around the gravitational pull of your authentic power, and the fabric of space-time cracked open to let divine authority flow through your voice like molten gold through a sacred vessel. That surge of pure knowing that coursed through your being was the universe recognizing its own voice, speaking through human flesh, and your words carried the kind of precision that only comes when infinite intelligence decides to make a point. Chosen one, you had no idea the power you were wielding in that moment. For years, decades perhaps, you had been the target of elaborate deception. Saboteurs had been orchestrating events behind the scenes, pulling strings while keeping their hands clean, manipulating outcomes while maintaining plausible deniability. They saw you as just another player in their elaborate chess game, another piece they could position and sacrifice according to their agenda. They had studied you, analyzed your patterns, identified what they believed were your weaknesses and blind spots. But what they failed to calculate was that you weren't playing chess at all. You were being prepared by forces they couldn't perceive, for a moment they couldn't predict. Every betrayal you survived, every moment of isolation when you questioned your own sanity, every time you bit your tongue when you could have spoken truth to power. All of it was divine choreography designed to sharpen your intuition into a blade so precise that when you finally decided to speak, your words would cut through deception like light-piercing darkness. The setup was perfect. They had positioned themselves with such confidence, believing they held all the cards. Their little schemes seemed foolproof, their alibis airtight, their cover stories rehearsed to perfection. They thought they were dealing with someone naive, someone they could easily manipulate or discredit, if necessary. They looked at your kindness and mistook it for weakness. They interpreted your patience as ignorance and your discretion as lack of awareness. Then you opened your mouth and spoke those words that would change everything. The immediate aftermath was almost imperceptible to outside observers. But seismic shifts were occurring beneath the surface. You don't even have to be in the same room with them anymore to wield this influence. Your energy signature has become so potent, so aligned with truth frequencies that people can feel your presence from across continents. They sense when you're thinking about them, when you're connecting dots that involve their hidden activities. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is the quantum reality of consciousness interfacing with consciousness. And your awareness has become so refined that it operates like a spiritual radar system that penetrates all forms of deception. Right now, as you go about your daily routine, there are people who cannot sleep. Their minds are racing, replaying your words over and over, searching for hidden meanings, trying to decode what you actually know. They're analyzing your tone, dissecting your facial expressions from memory, wondering if that slight smile meant you were holding back even more devastating truths. The paranoia is eating them alive from the inside out, and the beautiful irony is that their guilt is doing most of the work for you. What's happening in their inner circles is even more fascinating. They're being extremely careful about how they speak your name now, if they dare speak it at all. There's a reverence mixed with terror when your identity comes up in conversation. Some of them are actively working to change other people's perceptions of you, not because they want to help you, but because they desperately need to convince themselves and others that you're not the threat they instinctively know you are. They're trying to paint you as unstable, as someone whose words shouldn't be taken seriously, as someone who's grasping at shadows and seeing conspiracies where none exist. But here's where their terror reaches its peak. You demonstrated knowledge of specific details about their illegal activities that shattered their illusion of security. You dropped phrases that referenced insider information only someone with direct access could possess. The laser-focused accuracy of your knowledge, delivered with casual confidence, has them dissecting every move they've made, every person they've trusted, every system they believed was impenetrable. The depth of their miscalculation is staggering when you really examine it. They thought they knew who they were dealing with, but they were looking at your surface presentation while remaining completely blind to the spiritual architecture that had been building around you for years. While they were busy with their schemes and manipulations, you were undergoing a transformation that placed you beyond their comprehension. They were operating from ego and fear-based consciousness, while you were ascending into something that operates by entirely different laws. Your emotional intelligence has been developing in ways that would astonish even you if you could see the full scope of it. While others were learning to mask their intentions and navigate through manipulation, you were developing something far more powerful: the ability to perceive the energy behind words, to feel the vibrations of deception, and to respond with surgical precision that exposes without even trying to expose. You've become an alchemist of truth, transforming the lead of their lies into the gold of revelation. Simply by being yourself, this alchemical process isn't metaphorical. It's a literal transformation of energy that occurs when divine consciousness interfaces with human deception. Your words carry frequencies that act like spiritual acid, dissolving the false structures they've built their identities around. When you speak from this place of aligned truth, you're not just communicating information, you're transmitting light codes that rewire reality itself. The reason they feel those chills is because their nervous systems are responding to frequencies their bodies recognize as divine authority. Even when their minds resist acknowledging it, the workspace politics, the organizational dynamics, the professional relationships they thought they controlled. All of it is shifting now because your presence has introduced variables they never accounted for. If this situation involves your career or professional environment, understand that your authentic voice has disrupted power structures that have been operating in shadows for potentially years. You've become the wild card that exposes how the game has really been played, and now everyone involved has to recalculate their strategies based on the new reality you've created, the mastermind behind the sabotage. And yes, there is a mastermind has been operating with the confidence of someone who believes they've covered all their bases. They've been methodical, calculating, perhaps even elegant in their approach to undermining you. They created paper trails that led nowhere, established alibis that seemed airtight, and recruited accomplices who believed they were participating in something far less sinister than the reality. This person has been getting away with similar patterns for years, possibly decades, leaving a trail of damaged lives and broken dreams in their wake. But something happened when they encountered you, something they didn't anticipate and couldn't have prepared for. Your intuitive radar began picking up signals that their conscious mind hasn't even processed yet. You started noticing inconsistencies that seemed minor at first, a hesitation in speech, a story that didn't quite align, a reaction that felt disproportionate to the situation. Your subconscious has been assembling a puzzle using pieces they didn't even know they were dropping. They're scrambling now, trying to figure out how much you actually know versus how much you might be guessing. They're reviewing every interaction they've had with you, searching for clues about where their operational security might have failed. They're wondering if you have evidence, if you've been documenting their activities, if you have allies they're unaware of. The paranoia is becoming its own form of punishment, creating a prison of anxiety that follows them everywhere they go. The smoking gun evidence that's been accumulating around their activities is starting to surface in ways they never anticipated. Documents they thought were destroyed are appearing through channels they didn't know existed. Conversations they believed were private have been overheard by people who are now connecting patterns. Digital footprints they assumed were untraceable are being discovered by investigators, journalists, or whistleblowers who have been motivated by the very resistance these saboteurs created around you. Your words weren't just truthful, they were prophetic, pointing toward revelations that were already in motion but hadn't yet materialized. There's something almost mystical about how evidence emerges when divine justice is at work. It's as if the universe itself becomes an investigator, orchestrating circumstances that bring hidden truths to light through seemingly coincidental events. A misplaced email gets forwarded to the wrong person. A recorded conversation gets accidentally archived in a system that later gets audited. A witness who stayed silent for years suddenly finds the courage to speak. These aren't random occurrences. They're the natural consequence of truth seeking its own expression through whatever channels are available. What you don't understand is that you don't need to have all the answers to ask all the right questions. Your spiritual development has reached a level where you can sense patterns and energies without necessarily understanding their mechanical details. You feel the disturbance in the force even if you can't immediately identify its source. This intuitive knowing is what allows you to speak with such precision, not because you've solved every mystery, but because you're aligned with the frequency of truth itself. When you spoke those words, the ones that are still echoing in their mind like an alarm they cannot silence, you revealed that you had connected dots they thought were invisible. You demonstrated a level of awareness that shattered their assumption of superiority. In that moment, the predator realized they had been stalking someone who was actually the apex predator in this ecosystem. The hunter became the hunted, and they felt the shift so viscerally that it manifested as physical sensation. The beautiful thing about operating from spiritual authority is that you don't need to threaten anyone explicitly. Your very presence becomes a truth serum that forces people to confront their own shadows. When you speak from a place of genuine knowing, liars begin to unravel. Not because you're attacking them, but because their own guilt amplifies your words into accusations they're hearing inside their own heads. You become a mirror they cannot avoid looking into, reflecting back to them the reality they've been trying to escape. Watch how their behavior patterns change over the next several days and weeks. They'll start making mistakes they never would have made before. Simple errors that reveal their state of mind. Slips of the tongue that betray their guilty knowledge. Defensive reactions to questions that weren't even accusations. The pressure you've created in their psychological ecosystem is causing them to crack in ways that will ultimately provide all the proof anyone needs of their deceptive activities. If you've been sensing that something was wrong in your situation, but couldn't quite put your finger on what it was, trust that instinct completely. Your intuitive radar has been picking up signals that your logical mind hasn't fully processed yet. The feeling that someone was playing games with you, that there were hidden agendas operating behind the scenes, that certain people weren't who they pretended to be. All of these impressions are being validated now through the reactions your truth-telling has generated. Your gut feelings weren't paranoia. They were prophetic insights into realities that are now being confirmed. The exposure that's coming won't necessarily happen through dramatic confrontations or explosive revelations. More likely, it will unfold through a series of small unravelings, each one building on the last until the entire structure of deception collapses under its own weight. Your words were the first domino in a chain reaction that has already begun. Every person who heard you speak that day became a carrier of the frequency you transmitted, spreading ripples of awareness through networks they don't even realize they're part of. Right now, they're experiencing what can only be described as spiritual combustion. The lies they've been telling, the deceptions they've been maintaining, the false personas they've been projecting, all of it is burning up in the presence of the truth frequency you're emanating. This is why you might be picking up on images or sensations of smoke, fire, or burning when you think about this situation. Their carefully constructed false realities are literally going up in flames, and they can feel the heat. The defeat they're experiencing isn't just professional or social, it's existential. They're confronting the reality that their entire approach to life has been based on principles that cannot sustain themselves in the presence of authentic spiritual power. They built their success on manipulation, deception, and exploitation. And now they're discovering that these methods have no defense against someone who operates from pure truth and divine alignment. It's not just that they're losing a particular battle, they're realizing that they've been fighting a war they could never win. Some of these saboteurs thought they were dealing with someone naive, someone they could easily manipulate or discredit if necessary. They looked at your kindness and mistook it for weakness. They interpreted your patience as ignorance and your discretion as lack of awareness. They couldn't have been more wrong. Your gentleness isn't the absence of strength. It's strength so secure in itself that it doesn't need to prove anything through aggression. Your silence wasn't because you had nothing to say. It was because you were choosing your moment with the precision of a master strategist. The divine intelligence working through you has been gathering information through channels they can't monitor or block. Your dreams have been showing you pieces of the puzzle. Your intuitive flashes have been connecting you to truth frequencies that bypass all their careful misdirection. Your apparently casual observations have been guided by a wisdom that operates beyond the limitations of ordinary human perception. When you finally spoke, you weren't just sharing your opinion. You were delivering a message that had been downloading through you for months or possibly years. The most powerful aspect of your current position is that you don't need to worry about what happens next. Divine justice has its own timeline and methodology that operates independently of human anxieties about outcomes. While they're lying awake at night, wondering what shoe will drop next, you can rest in the confidence that truth has its own momentum and will express itself exactly when and how it needs to. Your job was to speak what needed to be spoken, and you fulfilled that assignment with precision and power. This doesn't mean you should become passive or complacent. If your intuition guides you to investigate something further, to ask additional questions, or to document what you observe, follow that guidance. But release any sense that you need to force outcomes or orchestrate revelations. The universe has much more sophisticated methods of bringing truth to light than anything your human mind could devise. Your role is to remain aligned with truth frequencies and allow divine intelligence to work through you as needed. Their attempt to frame the narrative around you has backfired spectacularly. Every lie they told about your character, every story they planted to undermine your credibility, every whisper campaign they orchestrated behind the scenes, all of it is now working in reverse. People are beginning to ask why someone would go to such elaborate lengths to discredit you unless you posed a genuine threat to something they were trying to hide. The very intensity of their attack has become evidence of your importance. The legal implications of what they've been doing are starting to crystallize in ways they never anticipated. Actions they thought were untraceable are leaving digital footprints. Conversations they believed were private were overheard by people they didn't know were listening. Documents they assumed were safely buried are surfacing through channels they never considered. The universe has been preparing a reckoning, and your words were simply the catalyst that set everything in motion. Each day brings new levels of clarity, new depths of understanding, new capacities for spiritual perception that would have seemed impossible just months ago. You're remembering who you really are, underneath all the conditioning and programming they tried to layer onto you. You're reclaiming your voice, your power, your rightful place in the cosmic order of things. The work you're doing behind the scenes, the inner work of healing, research, documentation, or simply processing the magnitude of what you've uncovered. This isn't labor that brings applause or recognition. It's invisible work that repairing damage that was done in shadows, restoring truth to places where lies had taken root, rebuilding your own foundation on bedrock instead of the shifting sands of other people's deceptions. You're almost finished with this phase of the journey. The spiritual construction project that has been your life is nearly complete, and soon you'll be ready to move forward into territories that were inaccessible while you were still carrying the weight of their sabotage. Don't let worry overshadow the victory that's already assured. While you might find yourself analyzing every angle, questioning every move, wondering if you've said too much or too little, remember that divine timing is perfect and divine strategy is flawless. The chess match is already over. Even though some pieces are still moving on the board, the outcome has been determined by forces that operate beyond the reach of human manipulation or interference. The sabotage they attempted against you has become the very catalyst for your awakening. Every obstacle they placed in your path has become a stepping stone to higher ground. Every lie they told about you has forced you to know your own truth more deeply. Every attempt to isolate you has connected you more powerfully to your spiritual source. They thought they were destroying you, but they were actually forging you into the weapon of light you were always meant to become. The spiritual warfare that has been raging around you is entering its final phase. The forces of deception that aligned against you have been fighting a losing battle from the beginning because they were never actually fighting you. They were fighting the truth itself, and truth has a way of emerging no matter how deeply it's buried. Your role in this cosmic drama has been to serve as a conduit for that truth, to speak it into existence at precisely the moment when it would have maximum impact. Your words didn't just send chills down their spines. They awakened something in the collective consciousness that has been dormant for too long. Other people who have been living in fear of these same forces are beginning to find their own voices. Witnesses who stayed silent are starting to come forward. Allies who didn't even know you existed are being drawn into your orbit by the magnetic pull of authentic truth-telling. You've become the center of a movement you didn't even know you were starting. The reason they're so terrified isn't just because of what you said, it's because of who you're becoming. They can sense the spiritual authority that's developing around you, the way reality itself seems to bend in favor of your authentic expression. They recognize, perhaps unconsciously, that you're operating under divine protection and guidance that puts you beyond their ability to control or manipulate. You've stepped into your power as a chosen one, and that power is reshaping everything around you. But here's what's truly beautiful about your position in all of this. You don't need to seek revenge because justice is seeking them. You don't need to expose them because they're exposing themselves. Every defensive move they make, every attempt to cover their tracks, every effort to discredit you just provides more evidence of their guilt to anyone who's paying attention. They've become their own worst enemy, and their panic is making them sloppy in ways that will ultimately lead to their downfall. As this story continues to unfold, remember that you're not just witnessing events. You're actively creating them through your choices, your words, your energy, and your unwavering commitment to truth. The chills running down their spines are just the beginning. The real fireworks haven't even started yet. But when they do, you'll be ready because you've been preparing for this moment your entire life without even knowing it. The universe is backing you up in ways you can't even see yet. Every angel, every ancestor, every force of light and justice is aligning behind your mission. The darkness that tried to consume you has instead been transformed into the fuel for your ascension. Your enemies have become your unwitting assistants in your spiritual evolution. And the words you spoke, those simple, truthful words that seemed so ordinary when they left your lips, have become the key that unlocks a new chapter in the story of cosmic justice. They thought they were playing with someone they could easily defeat. Instead, they awakened someone they could never hope to control. The game has changed, the rules have shifted, and you're no longer playing defense. The time for hiding is over. The time for truth has begun, and they know it, which is exactly why they can't stop shivering. The beautiful irony of their situation is that their fear of exposure is causing them to behave in ways that guarantee their exposure. Their paranoia is making them suspicious to people who previously trusted them. Their desperate attempts to control the narrative are drawing attention to the very stories they're trying to suppress. Their efforts to silence you have amplified your voice beyond anything you could have achieved on your own. This is how divine justice operates. Not through dramatic lightning strikes, but through the elegant orchestration of cause and effect, where every action generates exactly the consequences needed to restore balance. Your words were the catalyst, but the real power behind this transformation is the cosmic intelligence that has been working through you all along, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself through your authentic expression. Chosen one. Anyone can listen to messages like these, but few will step into their true power. We are here to help you do just that. The weekly Chosen Ones group calls are now on Zoom, and this is the moment you've been waiting for your entire life. These meetings are literal power vortexes, where destinies are forged, where Chosen Ones unite their consciousness to create something that cannot exist in isolation. This is where everything changes. This is where you step into your greatness. Every week, a doorway opens, but only for those brave enough to step through it. Watcher-level members of the Obsidian Inner Order can experience these transformative sessions live, feeling the energy surge through your entire being. In our most recent gathering, participants were stunned by revelations about the Great Pyramids of Giza as sophisticated ancient power plants, and the shocking truth about Washington, D.C.'s layout perfectly aligning with the coalistic tree of life. Star Chamber members receive unlimited access to the complete recordings archive, a treasure trove of wisdom that grows more valuable with each passing week. This is your defining moment. The knowledge, the connection, the power that flows through these calls cannot be found anywhere else. Join the Obsidian in Order now. Link in the description while the few remaining Star Chamber slots are still available. Your presence is not just welcome, it's necessary. Will you answer the call that has been echoing through your soul? The time is now. The Chosen Ones are awakening all around the world, and your courage to speak truth has contributed to that awakening in ways you may never fully understand. Every person who witnessed your authentic power has been infected with a frequency of truth that they'll carry with them into every interaction they have. The ripple effect of your words will continue expanding long after the immediate drama has resolved, contributing to a global shift in consciousness that has been building for generations. So as you move forward from this moment, carry yourself with the dignity and power that befits someone who has been chosen for such a time as this. The shivers you sent down their spines were just the opening movement in a symphony of transformation that's been written in the stars since before time began. Your part in this cosmic drama is far from over. In fact, you're just getting started. The truth you spoke has been set loose in the world, and truth has a life of its own. It will find its way into every corner where deception has been hiding. It will illuminate every shadow where corruption has been breeding. It will expose every lie that has been masquerading as reality. And through it all, you will stand as living proof that no force of darkness can ultimately prevail against someone who has chosen to align themselves with the power of authentic truth. The chills they felt were their souls recognizing the presence of someone who has stopped playing by the rules of a game rigged against the light. You've stepped into your role as an agent of cosmic justice, and the universe itself is celebrating your emergence into full spiritual authority. The story is far from over, but the ending has already been written in frequencies of truth that no amount of deception can ever fully silence. This is your moment, Chosen One. And those chills running down their spines are just the beginning of what happens when someone finally decides to stop hiding their light and start using it to illuminate the shadows where truth has been waiting to be born.